schedule conflict kept me from being here to deliver these remarks in person, but technology has saved me, once again. There are a lot of good works submitted, so making choices was difficult. The images I have chosen to show here are the ones that spoke to me, and the ones that clearly illustrate some principles of composition and technique that I felt might be helpful, not only to the artists, but to all of us, as we all carry iPhones now, and they're us all photographers. The images are in alphabetical order. Puddle by Leah Alberga. This image is an unusual take of the Duomo in Florence, Italy. I love in the top right how the stones reflect the glow of the light from the church, and the two sets of diagonals are juxtaposed and bring a bit of drama. Daffodils Reflected by Linda Barnes. This is a beautifully executed macro shot with an unusual composition and gorgeous out-of-focus areas, which are officially termed bokeh. It also has wonderful pastel colors. Some people hold that the beauty of an image is in the out-of-focus areas, and I thoroughly agree. Uluru Shadow Dance by Ken Crater. Captured in the Australian outback, these frolicking shadows, cast by the sun onto a beautiful rock face, create a timeless image of the human beings lost in the moment. It leaves the viewer pondering about the story behind these dancers. Solitude by Agnieszka Day. This moody photograph uses a snow-covered buffalo to balance out the vestigial trees. The almost completely white image makes great use of the darker areas as a counterpoint. An Old Tree at Water's Edge by Norman Eggert. This lovely image has a timelessness to it. The sepia toning makes it appear historic, as does the lightening around the edges, which is reminiscent of how old photographs' edges fade from exposure to air. The mass of the tree is very nicely offset by the fine detail of the leaves and the brush surrounding it. The Butterfly and the Crescent by Anthony Federico. This is an impressive example of astrophotography. 338 shots were taken over 5 nights and combined to reveal what the eye cannot see. The reds are brought out further by the complementary green. There's a lot of detail to explore in this image. Boathouse Light by Diane Gray. This carefully composed, symmetrical yet asymmetrical image brings a lot of interest to explore within the shadows. The outside world is partly visible, yet intentionally excluded. Inside, there is tranquility. Walking on Air by Agnes Hagopian. This image has a wonderful uncertainty as to what we are actually seeing. It could be a reflection, but remains a bit enigmatic. This prompts the viewer to further explore and find the reflection, which is mimicked by the texture on the right, which echoes the model's legs. Bloom Below, Green by Sherry Holland. In this image, the viewer immediately notices that there's something different. There's a dreaminess. It turns out that the flowers are submerged in water and that Sherry used some milk drops to create a cloudiness that makes this so ethereal and moody. Great Blue Heron Mating Rituals by Darlene Holman. Bird photography is always a challenge, as birds rarely do what you expect. Darlene has a very clear shot of 2 magnificent specimens. The blue sky forms a sort of negative space, keeping the viewer's eyes firmly on the subjects. Window to the World by Michael Killeen. Michael carefully captured the exposure in this image to keep detail in the highlights and maintain the glow against the dramatically dark interior of the building. The dark negative space nicely offsets the illuminated areas. I love the bottom left where the light has reflected off the curtain onto the wall. Parish Light by Richard Lapping. The strong diagonals lead the viewer's eyes up and in. A strong supporting actor is the black handrail at the bottom, which serves as a leading line to return the eye back into the image. Both the highlights and the shadows are beautifully rendered. The black and white treatment gives it a classic look. I would guess that color would only distract from this image. Swift River and Morning Fog, No. 4, by Donald McAllister. The lovely streaks of sunlight and small fog bank are augmented by a highlighted foreground whose detail creates a magical mood. The image gets softer and softer as the landscape recedes. Panther by Megan Morrissey. This artfully cropped image is a symphony of blacks, punctuated only by the whiskers and the eye. You can feel the animal instinct is completely alive. Impressions of Autumn by Dmitry Papkov. In this image, the numerous diagonals keep leading the viewer's eye back to the center. The landscape forms a natural vignette, and the atmospherics create a soft, gauzy light that is quite enchanting. Ella by Mark Phillips. Ella Fitzgerald looks transported in this image. Her hand creates a conversation with her face. The jet black background pops her out front and center, and you can feel her giving the song all she has. Life Goes On by Colleen B. Riley. Perfect reflections tend to be a bit boring. This image has a greatly differing direct and reflected views, with changes to color, detail, and texture. I am especially fond of the difference in the color of the reflected leaves, and I love that there is no horizon line, leading the viewer to conjecture once the tree has been explored. Self-Portrait in a Surprised Mood by Marie Saxon. This portrait not only shows a startled expression, but also surprises the viewer once they notice the bubble wrap covering her face. The sharpness of the mouth and eyes belie how much her face is actually concealed, and the pops of red are a bonus. Sunflower Burst by Cindy Wilder. This image is simultaneously sharp and soft. It has a lovely glow, and the repetition of patterns is helped by the varying angles of each part of the sunflower. The Man in the Window, Venice, Italy by Nancy Sostak Wright. The lovely textures of the shutters lead the viewer's eye to the man looking at us. The small radio provides an incongruous counterpoint to the building that is likely hundreds of years old. And while the subject knows he is being photographed, he remains steadfast, as solid as the walls. Calligraphy by Jeff Wu. This is a beautiful capture of these iconic mountains in China. The clouds alternately emphasize and mask the peaks, creating a lovely path for the eye to follow as it explores. The artist has carefully kept white away from the edge of the picture to prevent the image from leaking out into the borders. Bravo to all you photographers. Keep up the good work. Thank you.